Today, The Strokes released Falling Out of Love, the second single from the upcoming album Reality Awaits. I've been studying the songwriting of The Strokes and Julian Casablancas for a long time, so let's listen to the song together and I'll explain what's going on and I'll put into context how the Strokes are changing. Let's get right to it. Okay, let's listen. 5 chord, 1 chord, so that's really kind of basic rock and roll sound. It's 1, 4, and 5 chords. And Julian Casablancas and other Strokes members have said that when they started working with Rubin on the New Abnormal, that they listened to a lot of rhythmic rock groove music like the Rolling Stones. And I think you can hear that here, the Rolling Stones influence. The drum beat is nice and stable with a little grace note to give it a flair, a little kick drum, but really nice and tasteful vibe. Let's listen to the verse.
Took you back to my town,
Stepping up.
where I learned to be alone.
Stepping down.
Riding up the mountainside,
It's nice. Hits the 9.
for all the world to hear.
Goes back to the 1.
Didn't go wrong to praise the dawn.
At least a 9.
Same old song about love with a goal.
It goes up there. That's great.
Be always and never.
That's a really great vocal melody for the verse. So Julian has said that he is a student of great melodies and that he studies them a lot. And I think you can hear that here. One of the things that a great vocal melody will do is have a rising line that rises higher each time. And Julian, in his own way, does that here. Goes down, up, and first he goes up, down. Then he kind of lays out the 5th. Then he goes up to the 13. Dun, dun, dun. And then he goes up and gives you the whole octave and gets down the 7th. So he's created a rising line, really clever stuff. Here's the chorus.
I'd like for the first time. Something's on from this line. I'll find for the first time. Dancing, yes, and alone too. Oh, I don't know where it's sing along.
So that's really cool, great melodic line. Stepping down. Really great idea there. And the chords are actually the chords to Someday. People had speculated that this song was going to be based on the jam that they did on Someday for the Unplugged online show, and it is that. And you can almost hear that there's a throwback in the guitar part as well. Kind of a similar idea. Both are triads and the kind of standard Strokes rhythm. Very cool. Yeah, and the bass line is great too. Really beautiful bass riff, really great stuff. Kind of takes you all the way back to Is This It? With that incredible bass riff. Okay.
Once was a boy turned to Lucifer.
Slightly talking, singing here. This is something that Julian has introduced into his toolkit recently, most predominantly on Unholy Lover on the Megs of Ram Voids EP last year. I'm not a big fan of it, but Julian seems to think that it pairs well with Autotune songs, so you can see why it might be here.
He haunted many spaces, got lost down many streets, sailed 7 seas, hunted wild rhinoceros.
little rapping in a way.
Don't call me ma'am, I'm no fancy
He's still incorporating new melodic ideas.
Finally fell in love, finally found some relief. Finally.
The way that Julian Casablancas writes verses also is that while most pop verses will kind of use the same material and maybe move it up a little bit, Julian Casablancas tends to write different melodies for each verse, and this one's no exception. This is how Julian writes his songs. So it kind of gives his songs a very spontaneous and live feel. It sounds like he's just doing it in one take, just sharing all of his ideas about how the melodies should work out. And, this kind of compares really well when you think about other songs where the vocalist sounds like they just dub it and they just do one take and then kind of copy and paste it in here and there, and it just doesn't really feel like it's one full take. This is live and feels really good and like rock music.
He found his lover in the arms of a thief. Mostly found an angle, holding on for now.
Guitar's getting more arpeggiated. Great. One of the things about Julian and his use of Autotune, and it's controversial, I know, but one thing that I've talked about before with his use of Autotune is that he uses it as a compressor. Like he used distortion on the First Strokes albums. So those albums, he used distortion to compress his vocal. Now he's been using Autotune to also compress his vocal. So what that does is it brings the low volume points up and the high volume points down, and it makes it more flattened. And so you can sort of hear every balanced line, the melodies, each melodic note is balanced out better against each other. You can kind of hear it better. And so I think what Julian Casablancas does here is he uses Autotune to really enable himself to sing all the notes that he's hearing in his head. He has all these melodic ideas, and he uses Autotune to compress his vocals so that he can really hit every note that he's hearing. So he's using it in a really interesting way as a tool to express himself. And you might want to think about it in those terms.
Good times are avenue to the cozy
Another verse, more similar to before.
Past the hall of judging its family portraits of the dead. I know they found verses.
You can really feel the jamming influence here. So one of the things that they said as they were promoting their last album, The New Abnormal, is that Rick Rubin encouraged them to get in a room every day and jam to write. And some of their songs, like Adults Are Talking, were written that way. And it's not exactly a new way to write in rock music, and nor is it a new way to write for Julian Casablancas. Julian Casablancas actually talked about how the Void's first album, Tyranny, a lot of it was written through jamming with the other Void's members. So it's not a new idea to Julian to write that way, but it is new to the Strokes. And what it does is it makes the harmony, the harmonic movement a little slower, it gives it more space, and it sounds pretty different for the Strokes. This is a new development for the Strokes. It gives them a little bit more of a jammy, more mature sound. And it's cool, you know. I think it's a new direction that they're really exploring more and more. In their younger albums, they had like a very kind of like raw, compressed sound, a really like tightly coiled sound. And with their more new jamming direction, like Eternal Summer and this, they are really kind of spreading out and letting the music breathe a little more, which is a new sound for them and is a cool direction they're going. They're adding some more like rhythmic variation here. There's a keyboard part now to add the harmony, but now the guitar is doing more rhythmic work, kind of doing fretted, kind of palm muted things. Sounds interesting. Short keyboard. punchy guitar. It's a great little line there. Great. Little fifth movement. Cool. Alright, this is my favorite part of the song because it's such a huge shift. Let's listen. So that's really cool. So the whole song so far has been the key of A, and they changed the key sort of to E, up a fifth, but not quite. They actually go to the relative minor of E, C sharp minor. But they don't even do that exactly. It's a little more exotic than that. They are borrowing chords from the melodic minor, which has an exotic sound, and it gives it this flat 13 that they can use. And it resolves down to that 5. And then it goes down to that C sharp minor. And this is like a minor 1-4-5 that Julian the Strokes have used before, but they've really kind of stepped it up and used some really cool extensions here to reach new sonic kind of territory. It's really, really gorgeous. Yeah. So that part's cool. He kind of anticipates that they're going to shift to major, just telling your ear, we're going to move to major. Not yet. Major. So this is a thing that Julian has been using more recently. It was had a lot of usage on the Like All Before You record by the Voids. He likes to use this kind of more classical technique of moving from a parallel minor to a parallel major to a parallel minor. But moving to a parallel major is when you just move the key. So you go from major to minor, and that's what Julian likes to do. He's talked before about how he likes to sneak classical music ideas in, and I suspect this is something that he's talking about. Nice, ends there. So the Strokes are going in incredibly new directions. They're more spacey, more jammy, a lot more room to breathe. There's a lot of Autotune, obviously, so that Julian can express his melodic ideas using the compression. And there's this new synthy Voids sound. The Strokes are kind of really getting experimental here. So what's going on? Well, essentially what has happened is that for a long time, Julian has sort of seen the Strokes and the Voids as different focuses and different projects for him. The Strokes has been his money bank, and the Voids have been his experimental outlet. And I think he ceded some kind of creative control over the Strokes in recent years, and has slowly been taking more of a hand back in it. But he's treated the Voids as his place of really writing the music he wants to write, and the Strokes is place for pop music where he can make money and pay his bills. And what's happened though is that he saw the Voids as being his experimental outlet, but then he and the other Voids members, I think, when they made Virtue in 2018, they wanted to make that album more accessible and reach a wider audience. And they did that. They did My Best and other sort of songs that were a little more friendly. And then they also did everything up to Like All Before You, which was also kind of an accessible record. It was more Stroke sounding at times than anything the Voids had done before. And for whatever reason, it didn't really take. They didn't really hit it off. No one really. It didn't have the commercial success that I think Julian had hoped for. And Julian had since in the past year changed his mind, and he said that the Voids are going back to being very experimental, pushing the boundaries as far as they can. I think he said something like, we let the sunshine in with the Virtue album, but now we're back to, experimenting in our dungeon in New York City. And Megs of Ram was this kind of dark, gloomy album that was back in that kind of spirit. Now, in the past, Julian when he's gone more experimental with the Voids, he hasn't really touched his ideas with the Strokes, and he's allowed those places to be different outlets for similar melodic ideas. I did a video about this different hook that he's used in the different bands and how it's treated differently based on what he used those different bands for to express. But I think that with the Strokes, he's decided that not only does he want the Voids to be experimental, he wants the Strokes to be experimental. I think he's kind of given up on this idea that he thinks the Voids have to be experimental and the Strokes have to be pop and accessible. I think he's trying to bring some of his experimentalism to the Strokes, and it sounds really cool and really exciting because the Strokes are great songwriters. Nick and Albert are all great songwriters, and I'm really excited to see, what kind of ideas they're going to bring that are going to be more experimental. So it should be a really great album, and I anticipate that Reality Awaits will be more experimental, like the Voids kind of music that Julian has done. So I don't know. What do you think? Are you excited about that direction for the album? Are you excited for the new single? Do you like Falling Out of Love? Do you like the Autotune? Let me know. I'm really curious. I wanted to get this conversation going so that we could talk about the actual music here and not just talk about how people feel about the Autotune. I wanted to give you some information about the chords and how they work and the context of the band as it's moved. And I wanted you to be able to bring that to our conversation here. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd like to hear more from you guys. If you liked this video and you thought it was interesting, I'm going to be making more of these videos about the Strokes songs as they come out and about the whole album. I'm really excited for it, so I'm really looking forward to digging into it. If you liked it, be sure to like and subscribe because I'll have more coming. Thank you for watching. Bye.